Yes, dopey me didn't have the mic turned on. Hooray! That'll be something I'll chop off the stream. Jeez, and here I'm sitting thinking, okay, I've got everything all set up. I haven't had a show in a while. I'm all good. All the news slides are all ready. And then I tested the sound sync because, that's always something that's messed up. But it wasn't. Everything was great. I'm like, yeah, I'm good to go. And I forgot to turn the mic volume up. Yeah, what can I tell you? It is a live show. So, welcome aboard. I am Jeff McAleer. I'm your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by the Gaming Gang, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. Wow, talk about craziness. So, San Diego Comic-Con was last week, and I'm telling you, it was nuts. I will talk a little bit about the con after I do the news, but I do want to throw out a big thank you to Ligan Animation Studio, National Geographics, and The Nerdist, because they had some fantastic parties, which the gang was invited to attend. And I had loads of fun. Man, I can't tell you how much fun we had. But I'll talk about SDCC a little bit after the news. So today I am reviewing the core book for Tales from the Loop, which is from Free League as well as Modiphius Entertainment. Gonna give you a hint. I really like it. Do want to point out, because this is a live stream, chat is available through YouTube. It is not on screen. That's how I keep some of the goofballs at bay. But if you want to say hello, or if you have a question about, say, Tales from the Loop, as I'm doing my review, because I'm going to look through the book again. I'm going to show off the book again. Feel free to chime in, and I will respond. All right, so I do have quite a bit of news today, so I do want to jump into that because I have the feeling this is going to be a fairly long show. Arriving early next month from Ravensburger is a Euro-style, I'm not positive if this is a fantasy game, but I do know it's a city builder, and it's called The Rise of Queensdale. And I've got the dope. Build me a castle. Build me a city worthy of my queen. Your king's wish is your command. So you decide to travel into the Valley of Queensdale, collect raw materials, build buildings, and take fate into your own hands. Fame and fortune are sure to be yours. If only there weren't those other glory seekers who also followed the king's wishes. Act with courage and wisdom, and remember that your decisions will have consequences. Bum, bum, bum! The Rise of Queensdale is a legacy-style game. Your decisions have an impact on the game and its rules, and over the course of multiple game sessions, you create a unique game experience. Upgrade your dice, develop your burrows, gain the king's patronage, and experience the rise or fall of Queensdale. It's all in your hands. The Rise of Queensdale is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. It will carry an MSRP of $80 when it arrives on August 8th. Lots of kind of legacy-style games out there recently. See it with Pandemic, we saw it with Risk, and Charterstone, another one from Stone Mayer Games. So we are seeing some legacy-style games out there. I know very little about the game outside of what I just shared with you, and I'm sharing some images. Game looks pretty cool. Still have to say, I think $80 is a little bit pricey. Simply because being a legacy kind of game, once you play through the series, usually you can't replay it after you've played so many sessions to conclusion. So unless you buy kind of like a restart or reset pack. But still, could be pretty interesting. Do want to move on because my great pal Herman Luttman's latest design is up for crowdfunding, of which it's already blown past its goal. And you want to take notice if you're a wargamer out there, because Crowbar, the Rangers at Point du Hoc, is up on Kickstarter, and I've got the dope. I do apologize, I kind of cut out a little bit of the box art there with my goofy mug. June 6th, 1944. 7:09 a.m. A commanding voice shouts, "Crowbar!" from the carefully monitored radios of Ranger Flotilla headquarters aboard the LSI command ship St. James. With that signal, the 225 men of Dog, Easy, and Fox companies of Force A of the 2nd Ranger Battalion launched one of those incredible and seemingly impossible assaults of military history. Crowbar, the Rangers at Point du Hoc, is a Herman Lettman-designed solitaire wargame with two-player and cooperative variant stretch goals that simulates the ebb, flow, and risk of the Point du Hoc assault, with you playing the attacking Rangers. The game system traces its parentage to the popular and magnificent Style game, and that title's speed of play, tough decision-making, and heart-pounding push-your-luck excitement. I really did enjoy In Magnificent Style from Victory Point Games, I do have to point out. But Crowbar has been updated for even smoother gameplay. For example, instead of the old dice matrix system of determining movement, Crowbar utilizes 4 custom movement dice. Each die has different results, escalating the possible risk-reward ratio. Dice are thrown one at a time and can be read instantly to determine what happens to the unit. The system also challenges you with even more events, including constant German counterattacks, ammunition shortages, artillery bombardments, booby traps, and other surprises. Your goal is to meet your various objectives as quickly as possible before the German defenders can dig in even deeper, and before they can organize effective counterattacks. Ultimate success or failure in the game is measured by how well you do as compared to the actual heroic accomplishments of the Rangers on that historic day. Are you up to the challenge? Flying Pig Games does have a video for the Kickstarter, runs just under 3 minutes. So let's kick back and take a peek.
Long years of training and waiting were behind them. Just over the horizon was the beginning of the final battle against the Germans. 2 of the architects of the operation kept a watchful eye on proceedings.
Early morning, June 6th, 1944, D-Day. Located between 2 beaches and soon to be known to the world as Omaha and Utah, a steep cliff looms over the ocean. From this cliff, the 2nd Battery of the Heereskusten Artillery, 1260, dominates its surroundings and seriously threatens the Allied beach landings. For the Allied High Command, it is clear the guns at Point du Hoc must be silenced. Heavy bombing fails, and Allied High Command initiates one of the most daring and seemingly impossible assaults of the Second World War, an operation given the codename Crowbar. The task: scale the 100-foot vertical cliff under intense fire and secure the fortified gun emplacements. The men, 225 soldiers of the 2nd Ranger Battalion. Crowbar, the Rangers at Point du Hoc, is a solitaire wargame depicting the Rangers' assault. You command the men in tough decision-making and heart-pounding push-your-luck endeavor. The game includes 252 easily read 1-inch counters, representing the fighting forces, markers, event chits, and player aids. The richly illustrated mounted board is divided into 3 zones: the sea, the beach, and the inland zone. There are 12 columns that channel movement on the map. Each Ranger unit in the game will have an assigned column through which it travels during gameplay. The board is also divided into 9 locations, areas that are referred to on the event chit descriptions and often represent bombardment or interdiction locales. The landing phase sets the stage and dictates what forces you will have at hand when you assault the German strongpoint. From the narrow beaches, there are only one way to go: up. Movement dice dictate the Rangers' movement and the chances they will take. Green to black, easy to hard. No sweat to gut clench tension. Each only rolled once per unit, if you dare. On the other hand, the German defenders are directed by event chits and the counter-attack countdown track. Bombardment chits may attrite the defenders. Supply markers can resupply low ammo units, and assigned commanders grant combat bonuses, re-rolls, and intense fire. Yet by far the toughest choice is deciding how hard to push your Rangers. At the game's end, you might have won a legendary military victory, or have to answer for a disgraceful performance. The outcome is up to you, and the 4 coloured dice. Crowbar, the Rangers at Point du Hoc. A game for gamers, made by gamers, by Flying Pig Games.
Looks mighty interesting, I must say. You can reserve a copy of Crowbar, as well as all unlocked stretch goals at the $75 pledge level through August 23rd. I do want to point out that the multiplayer component stretch goal has been unlocked as of right now. So keep that in mind. Now it's not just a solitaire game. You can have multiple players. Now, the expected delivery of Crowbar is March of next year. As I mentioned previously, I enjoyed In Magnificent Style, which was from Victory Point Games. I don't know if that game's still available through them or not. And that recreated Pickett's charge at the Battle of Gettysburg during the American Civil War. And I did like the whole risk-reward aspect of it, the pushing your luck aspect of that game. This is that game on that kind of mechanic on a much grander scale. In fact, if you'd like to get more information about Crowbar, definitely check out the interview I did with Herman Luttman at Origins Game Fair, because we do talk in depth about the game and do give you a really good close-up. Not that you didn't see plenty of close-ups in that video you just watched, but and it's a fun interview. Herman's a good buddy of mine, and we always have fun during our interviews. So definitely, if you're a war gamer, or if you like challenging solitaire games that aren't going to be too heavy rule-wise, then definitely give this a peek. Okay, so you don't have to be a fan of the venerable classic Talisman to be interested in the upcoming Talisman Legendary Tales from Pegasus Spiele. Here's the dope. Many centuries ago, legendary smiths formed the Crown of Command. Whoever wears it will hold the power over all the land. To prevent evil forces from obtaining it, a powerful wizard sealed the Crown of Command behind the Portal of Power. Only those who possess one of the legendary talismans may pass through this portal to reach the crown. Over the years, 5 of the talismans have disappeared. Enemy forces now seek to find them in order to seize the crown for themselves. Boo, hiss, boo. Brave heroes that you are, you have banded together to go on a quest to retrieve all 5 talismans, and thereby stop the enemy forces from ruling the world. This task won't be easy, as finding each talisman is an epic adventure in itself. However, if you work together using everyone's abilities and helping one another when you can, you will surely succeed. Talisman Legendary Tales is a cooperative game that takes the players on 5 connected adventures to retrieve the lost talismans. A clever bag building mechanism represents the hero's development and is used to resolve fights and other encounters while experiencing an original story set in the Talisman universe. Talisman Legendary Tales is for 1 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in around 20 to 40 minutes. Game will carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it arrives August 30th. I have to be honest, I know back in the day, I did play Talisman, but for the life of me, I don't remember the game. I really don't. I know I've played it. I just don't recall it. So this could be pretty interesting. It's nice to see, because Talisman's been around for a long time. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think it may have been Fantasy Flight Games who had the rights to it last. I might be wrong, but that's what my memory banks are telling me. And strangely enough, on a side note here, I don't know if this is true or not, but I have heard some kind of whispers in the wind out there. There may actually be a Talisman-based role-playing game that we might see on the horizon. Interesting, kids, interesting. Another intriguing game that is coming out soon, it's going to be arriving in the 3rd quarter from Starling Games, is a game of dueling mages. And it's dueling magic users. It's entitled Archmage. Looks pretty cool, and I've got the dope. A few magically talented individuals, their devoted followers in tow, have been drawn from their villages across the twisted wilderness to the ruined city. At the very heart of the cursed Tower of Magic rises into the broiling clouds. From this vantage, the Archmage and her order of mages ruled these lands for an age. Oh, there's a lot of age there. Drawing together the warring magics of the mythical races into one all-powerful and cohesive force. That was, of course, before the ending. And Led Magnet is chiming in. Hi, Led. Talisman 4th Edition was Fantasy Flight Games. Thank you. I thought it was, but wasn't positive. I'm not sure if it's still for sale through them or not. Anyway, the ruined city is now home to but a fragment of the mythical races that once served the Archmage and her order. And until now, no human has dared step foot in these forsaken streets. The newcomers of human stock are the descendants of the ancient mages, now outcasts living in camps in the farthest reaches of the lands. Unusual shows of power in their home villages have already gathered them small but enthusiastic bands of followers, and now they've traveled to meet with representatives of the mythic races to seek their wisdom and magical secrets. The mythic races are the keepers of 6 very different spheres of magic with very different abilities. It was only the power of the Archmage that long ago found ways to combine the spheres and gain higher and higher levels of magic. Now, much of the magic of the mythic races is lost, and the newcomers, having come so far, are told they must travel the lands to reclaim lost relics sacred to the races. It seems the journey to absolute magical power has only just begun. Archmage is a Euro-thematic hybrid where players take on the role of fledgling mages traveling the lands to recover ancient relics, gather followers, and train apprentices in 6 spheres of magic and beyond. As the power of their order grows, they will pit apprentices against each other and attain unheard of spells and magical powers, building their own mage tower to watch over the lands and weave their magics. When the time of reckoning comes, a new Archmage will rule. Archmage is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in around 1 to 2 hours. The game will carry an MSRP of $50 when it hits your friendly local game store in Q3. This sounds pretty interesting. I'm like, this looks pretty good. Like the artwork. Looks like there's lots packed into the box for a $50 MSRP. So this is definitely one I'm wanting to check out. Do want to point out that I did receive an email from Starling Games asking me to swing on by to check out their upcoming releases, and this is one of them. The other one that really had sparked my interest a lot back when it was on Kickstarter was, I want to say it's called Everdell, and it looks really, really fun. So that's another one that I'm going to try to get a look at. Now, I got to be honest, completely upfront. This year's Gen Con's going to be weird. I'm probably flying solo, which I have not flown solo for an entire convention. I don't think ever. I really don't think so. I think maybe Origins once. So it's going to be pretty bizarre. And I did contact Starling Games and said, gotta be honest, I'm only scheduling appointments with companies that actually provide review copies. Now, I'm not saying anything about their company. I don't know that much about them. But in the past, there have been companies that I've gone, Steve Jackson Games is famous. That's why I don't talk to them anymore. Where it's like, yeah, sit down. They want to talk about all this other stuff. And then good luck trying to get a review copy of anything squeezed out of them. But regardless, I do want to check out Archmage. This looks pretty cool. And as I mentioned, for a $50 MSRP, looks like there is a lot in the box. Speaking of fantasy games, if you dig Dungeons and Dragons as well as Magic the Gathering, well, Wizards of the Coast is going to have you covered, I guess. And I guess they've got you by the throat. But you'll probably be happy to learn the Magic the Gathering setting of Ravnica is going to be receiving a setting book for Dungeons and Dragons. Here's the dope. Fans of Magic the Gathering have been craving an official setting release for use with the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game for years. With the exception of some unofficial material from the Wizards creative team for players' home games, there's been little in the way of source material. Until now. Explore a worldwide cityscape filled to the brim with adventure and intrigue in this campaign setting for the 5th edition of the venerable RPG. A perpetual haze of dreary rain hangs over the spires of Ravnica. Bundled against the weather, the cosmopolitan citizens in all their fantastic diversity go about their daily business in bustling markets and shadowy back alleys. Yeah, I'm sure I'd be the one hanging out in the shadowy back alley. Through it all, 10 guilds, crime syndicates, scientific institutions, church hierarchies, military forces, judicial courts, buzzing swarms, and rampaging gangs vie for power, wealth, and influence. These guilds are the foundation of power on Ravnica. They've existed for millennia, and each one has its own identity and civic function, its own diverse collection of races and creatures, and its own distinct subculture. Their history is a web of wars, intrigue, and political machinations as they have vied for control of the plane. The Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, I believe, is going to be available on October 20th. I think that is for the core stores that are part of the Wizards of the Coast retailer program, and it will have a general release on November 9th. Excuse me. Let me grab a quick sip here. I want to say I believe that is the release schedule because the information I saw has it switched. Saying that the retailer program stores will get this on November 9th, but it goes on sale on October 20th. I don't know. Regardless, the book will carry an MSRP of $44.95, and of course, that will be a hardcover. Granted, I have no information about page count or anything like that. I have a good relationship with the folks at Wizards, so I'm sure we will get to see this up close and personal. There are also going to be a map set as well as a dice set. But I'm not sharing those images because they use the same exact image as the cover of the Guildmaster's Guide does. But this could be pretty cool. I do know a lot of people have asked over the years, why haven't we seen another, like, if I remember right, I think they call them Elseworlds for D&D that's based in one of the planes of Magic the Gathering. So here is your answer now. It's coming. And I'm interested in taking a peek. I like D&D. I know people rip on Dungeons and Dragons. It's like they rip on Pathfinder, they rip on Call of Cthulhu, what have you. I mean, the reality is no role-playing game is going to be perfect. Everybody's got their favorite, and I try not to play favorites with the various different core games out there. I mean, if something is a real steaming pile, I'll tell you. And there have been plenty of those over there. I'll tell you that for certain. But I'm interested in checking this out. I think it should be pretty cool. Should point out, since I'm talking about role-playing games, right now over at DriveThruRPG, my friends there are having their annual Christmas in July sale. And you can save 25% on over 50,000 items. Yep, you heard me right. There are 50,000 items, in fact, a little bit more than 50,000, on sale, and that sale will run through July 31st. Okay, so that is the news for today. Do you want to talk about just a few different things real quick before I jump into my review of Tales from the Loop. San Diego Comic-Con had a blast. It was great. It was jam-packed. It's crazy down there. Now, thankfully this year, San Diego closed the main street that's right in front of the convention hall to traffic, and that made things a bit easier and much safer too this year. But still, it was nuts. They get about 150,000 attendees. Then you've got the exhibitors, and then you get tens of thousands of locals who come down there to just see what's going on. And if you're familiar with San Diego and the gas lamp district, Friday and Saturday nights were insane. I wish I had gotten a photograph because it was just a sea of people. Luckily, we weren't going down Fifth Avenue either night. Stuff we had going on was on 4th and 6th, so we didn't have to go down Fifth Avenue because we wouldn't have been able to move. People were not moving. It was crazy. So I had an opportunity to sit in on the Man in the High Castle press roundtable for season 3. That was a blast. That was great. If you haven't checked out the video, I posted it yesterday, and really, really interesting. It wasn't just, hey, this is what's going on in season 3. I was very, very surprised, actually, that some of the cast and executive producers were kind of really sharing their thoughts on the political climate these days, too. So really enjoyed that. Sat in, did the cameraman work for my best friend Elliot Miller over at voiceofe.com for the Supernatural panel, which was a lot of fun too. Now, I have never seen the show. I have never watched a single episode in its 13 seasons. So, of course, I didn't ask any questions at that round table. Plus, I didn't want to jump Elliot's train. It was, it was his invite. I was just doing his camera duties. And but I can see why people like the show, because everyone who was involved with it, the two main actors, as well as some of the other cast, the producers, things like that, super nice, really, really fun, really funny too. So Elliot should have that up. I know he doesn't have it up yet. So I'll probably tweet that out when that Supernatural roundtable goes up, because like I said, a lot of fun. One thing I found was kind of strange is this year at San Diego Comic-Con, there were fewer like major companies doing panels. So there weren't panels for like Marvel movies, Disney movies, things like that. And what ended up happening was some of the bigger media outlets were kind of squeezing small fries like me out of some of the panels we had been confirmed for, because they only had so much room to get people in. And it was disappointing. I'm not going to name names or anything like that, because I understand, if it's a toss-up between somebody from Nerdist and Jeff from the Gaming Gang, obviously Nerdist is getting in, I'm not. So, it was disappointing, but I didn't get upset. But great parties, as I mentioned. Nerdist, they were fantastic. I had a chance to talk with one of the people from Legendary who owns Nerdist. Really, really nice. A lot of stuff we were talking about was off the record and stuff like that, but they went really all out. They had Nerdist House, which, do I have, yeah, I had a cup down here from it. I don't know. It's buried under something. There's all this stuff right now off camera that's all piled up. Anyway, they were super nice. They went the extra mile, and they actually had a gallery they had rented out all weekend long. It was open to the public. Now, granted, we were VIPs, so we had VIP wristbands, and it was open bar, and they were shooting their shows and stuff like that, and folks could just come on in, have free drinks, kick back, relax. It was an all-out thing, and I thought it was pretty cool because a representative from Legendary talked about how, hey, they wanted to put something together like the Wired Lounge, which, if you're media, that is a big deal. I've never gotten into it. They want to do something like that just for the attendees, and you didn't need a badge either. And I do point out all the time that if you live in the San Diego area and you can't get a badge, still go down for an afternoon. Check it out. There's tons and tons of stuff out there that you don't need a badge, because all the different restaurants, hotels, they've been taken over by all these different companies. Do have to point out, every year I go to San Diego Comic-Con, I'm exhausted. We walk, we're all over the place. We're there all day, all night. And I still come home and think, I didn't see a damn thing. I really didn't. I didn't see a damn thing. But do have to point out, Leica Animation Studio, what a tremendous, they call them installations. I call them exhibits, but they call it an installation. What a wonderful installation they did this year. Their party was phenomenal too, but they rented out Dick's Last Resort, and they actually had an example workshop of one of the animators, and you got to talk to the animator. They had the producers there again. It was awesome. And once again, completely open to the public. Granted, you had to stay in a long line to get in, but it was open to the public and really, really informative. Also want to point out that Nat Geo, their party was for the second season of Mars. I thought that was phenomenal. Really, really nicely done. We had people from NASA and astronauts doing presentations and stuff like that. It wasn't just, hey, drinking and food. Granted, there was drinking and food, but really, really great. And the funny thing is, I had not watched Mars, and I just watched the first season. So I binged it last night, and it's good. It's really good. Really enjoyed it. So overall, San Diego Comic-Con, huge thumbs up. Big thanks to my brother Greg, as well as my best friend Elliot Miller, for another phenomenal time. We had a great time. Great hotel right off the ocean. It was just a blast. Really, really enjoyed it. All right, one last thing I do want to point out, because I haven't had a show in, 9 days now? I have been getting some nasty comments and emails, and I gotta be honest, I mean, you can continue doing it. It doesn't really matter to me. But I mean, it's getting to the point where it's like, seriously, people, what do you want? And funny thing, like comments on YouTube, I'll just delete them. I don't care, because I know I have a couple of people out there who are kind of like my bulldogs. So if somebody says something like ultra negative, they'll jump on them, and I don't want a big, stream of comments back and forth, people bickering and that. I don't want that. So I delete those. I got a comment from somebody on an unboxing video I did about 2 years ago, where I'm not even on camera. It's just the game. It was a GMT game I did an unboxing of. Talk about the game. I think the video is probably about 12 minutes long. And their comment was, oh yeah, another stroking their ego, yada, yada, yada. I learned about as much from your video as I would have just looking at some pictures from GMT and reading the back of the box. It's an unboxing video, dummy. I don't know anything about the game outside of what I know from the back of the box and the sell sheet information and whatever else GMT would put out there. What do you expect? It's an unboxing video. It says it's an unboxing video. So I deleted that because it was very, very rude. I had somebody else, I want to say it was one of the shows, one of the Daily Dope shows, and they commented, half this video is just an advertisement. So I'm like, okay, so is it half the video? Is it the first half where I'm doing the gaming news? Because I guess you could construe that as an advertisement, because I share the web address. I tell you how much it's going to cost. I'm not necessarily, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm just sharing the news. Or was the half where I did the unboxing and talked about the game, was that the advertisement? I don't know. But once again, the video is clearly marked that it's like, hey, it's an unboxing video. It's a first look at whatever game. What do you want? So I deleted that one. Got an email. It was like, yeah, too bad you didn't die from that heart attack in March. I thought that was sweet. That was especially nice. But then I'm not the kind of guy, I'm not going to go on Twitter. So I'm just pointing out that, you want to send nasty comments, nasty emails, you're not going to rile me up. If it's a nasty comment on a video, I'll just delete it. If it's an email that you send me, I'm not going to respond to it. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate constructive criticism. That's different. That's okay. You cannot like the video. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like the games I'm covering. You don't have to like the Daily Dope. You don't have to like the Gaming Gang. I'm not coming to your house, banging on the door, and holding a gun to your head to tell you, hey, you got to watch these videos or go to my website. I don't do any of that. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes, the vast majority of people are positive, or they like the show or the website. They just don't say anything, and that's okay. That's fine. I have no issue with that. Just want to point out, take your sad life that you find no happiness in somewhere else. Or as Gandhi liked to say, I'm probably paraphrasing, don't walk through my head with your dirty feet. So something along those lines. All right, so I know people are tuning in because they want to see Tales from the Loop from Free League Publishing and Modiphius Entertainment. Yes, I'm going to be doing my review. I apologize up front. I know I'm going to mispronounce these names. I'll do the best I can. Tales from the Loop is written by Simon, I believe it's Stallhag, Nils Heinz, and Thomas Herenstam. The game is based on the artwork of Simon Stallinghaug, and the 192-page core book is available for $46.99, or you can score the PDF for $24.99 from my friends at DriveThruRPG. So let's swing on over to the other camera, and I did, let's move Fort Sumter out of the way that I was using to prop up the role-playing game, and I did a deep dive kind of first look into Tales from the Loop previously. So if you want to see like every page, and I really did, I did kind of go through every page of the book. By all means, if you're not satisfied with what you see as I flip through it during my review, then of course go check that out. So Tales from the Loop is from Free League, and just taking a look at the back here, it won multiple awards. It took home a bunch of awards, a bunch of Ennies, or are they Eenies? I always forget which it is, at Gen Con. So it won the gold in Best Game, Best Setting, Best Interior Art, Best Writing, and Product of the Year at the 2017 Gen Con. And I'm going to tell you right up front, I can see why. It's okay, so it's not perfect, but it is really good. So the premise of Tales from the Loop is it's 1980s, and the player characters are going to play kids, mainly teenagers, but of course it's up to you if you want to play a teenager or if you want to play a bit younger, like maybe about 9 or 10 years old. It's completely up to you. If you're a fan of movies like The Goonies or Super 8, series like Stranger Things, then, or, you know, even like E.T., this is definitely a game you're going to want to get your hands on if you don't already. I mean, granted, this has been out for a while, and the folks over at Free League and Modiphius were very kind to send me some stuff for Tales from the Loop as well as Mutant Year Zero, which I'll actually get a review out in the future. So, love the setting. I really dig the setting. So you've got two different settings. You've got one which is Sweden and the other which is the US. Will point out the game does skew a little bit towards using the Swedish setting as opposed to the US setting. There's just a bit more information for it. But that doesn't mean that for US gamers that we get kind of like the short end of the stick. Not by any stretch. So this is a very rules light game. It utilizes 6-sided dice, same system that's used in Mutant Year Zero as well. And the whole premise is it's the 1980s, but it's not our 1980s. That robots are a common thing. That the largest particle accelerator exists in Sweden. The second largest exists in Boulder City, Nevada. And the Swedish setting takes place on an island. I am ignorant about Sweden, so I do apologize that I'm not going to be like, oh, so it's this island and this and that. So I talk about the Swedish loop. One thing that's pretty cool, too, is we'll have like these little side, almost like post-it notes that kind of tell you about, oh, okay, so what were some of the top movies in the 80s? What were some of the top songs in the 80s? What were some of the top videos of the 80s? So we get a timeline as well. So robots exist. Floating ships exist. They don't exist everywhere, simply because they utilize magnetism. So mainly it's north of the equator. But we have these three huge towers that loom over the town. So both Boulder City as well as the location in Sweden. And here's an example of these floating ships. But they're mainly used for like transport and stuff like that. Now, of course, the thing is, the particle accelerators and the companies that are affiliated with them, no one really knows anything about them. What are they doing? What are they working on? Even like the characters, like I said, the characters play, kids, teenagers, things like that. And maybe one of their parents works for the company. Of course, their parent can't talk about anything about what they do. So a lot of mysteriousness to it. Love the artwork. There you go. Magnetrine flights are these like floating ships. They use magnetrine flight. So here we talk about, we get the background for the U.S. loop, what living in America is like. Talking about Boulder City. I have to admit, for a company that is based out of Sweden, they pretty much get the U.S. spot on. They're pretty good at that. Because I have to point out, I was a freshman in high school in 1981, so I remember the 80s. And I'm not talking about a VH1 show. I remember the 80s. And it's funny because I would be of the age back then of the player characters in this game. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, just kind of floating through here a little bit. I mean, I love the artwork. Now, I know there are probably people out there who will be thinking along the lines of, well, I mean, look at the sheer amount of artwork in the game as opposed to like usable game material. And I could understand that critique because there is a lot of art throughout, but in my opinion, I think the artwork is very inspirational for your game. That it's not, because it's just strange stuff. And you're like, whoa, I mean, it's like, like a snowscape and there's a kid, like a 10-year-old kid playing, and in the background you see like this huge robot. So as I mentioned before, the players represent kids, and I'm gonna pop on my reading specs here. And the character creation is super fast. You're gonna choose an archetype. You're gonna decide your age. You're gonna determine points that you have. There's only 4 attributes in the game. There's different skills, but not a ton of different skills. You're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a drive, and you're gonna have what they call a pride. And then you're going to define your relationship with the other players, with the other kids. So you got the bookworm, the computer geek, the hick, the jock, the popular kid, the rocker. I think I probably would have fallen into the rocker, sort of. Troublemaker now, weirdo, nah. So as far as the age, if you play a younger character, if you play a younger kid, you have more luck, but fewer skills. If you play an older kid, you have more skills, but less luck. So the attributes is body, tech, heart, and mind. Super easy. Body is, just physical stuff. It's kind of like strength, con, and dexterity all rolled into one. Tech is your ability to understand machines, like robots, things like that. Heart is your ability to make friends, know the right people, create a good atmosphere, kind of like a wisdom, charisma mix. And then you've got mind. The ability to find weak points, understand people, situations, and creatures, solve riddles. And then we've got the different skills. And the different skills will fall into kind of like a subcategory of the 4 attributes. Really easy. what basically boils down to is you'll have a dice pool of 6-sided dice. And you may only get to roll a couple of dice. You may get to roll 3 dice. You might only get 1 die. And you need to roll a 6 for a success. That's it. That's all you got to do. If you roll a 6, you succeed. Anything other than a 6, you're going to have consequences. You may succeed, but something may not go the way you want. Or you may have to talk with your game master about, well, I failed to roll, but if I succeed on this, I'll take a penalty. As I mentioned, the game is very, very rules light. It is really, really focused, on telling a story. It is, in some ways, and kind of strange for me to bring this up. I really liked Bubblegum Shoe, and I thought Bubblegum Shoe was very, very well done. And in some ways, Tales from the Loop and Bubblegum Shoe have similarities. I'm not saying one is based on the other or anything like that, because I believe Tales from the Loop came out before Bubblegum Shoe. But once again, they're both systems which are really, really focused on telling a story, getting everybody together to contribute to the story, as opposed to dealing with a bunch of crunch. You are not going to find grappling rules in Tales from the Loop. Another thing to keep in mind too is that the kids range from about 9 to 15. Once a kid turns like 16, you're supposed to kind of retire them as an adventurer, because now they're too close to becoming an adult. There isn't that childlike wonder that a vast majority of us had when we were kids. So, talking about trouble. So this is pretty much the section where it's talking about, okay, so these are the different kind of conditions. This is how you're sort of putting the game together. The way most of the adventures, or at least what the included adventure here is, as well as kind of the GM section of the book talks about, is you should kind of take your story and have like 4 pieces to it. Almost, as odd as it sounds, almost kind of like an episode of, say, like Scooby-Doo, right? So, talking about dice, items of pride, luck, doing the almost impossible, buying effects, failing your rolls, pushing your rolls. We'll point out, because your dice pool tends to be small, some players will get frustrated when they don't roll successes. So keep that in mind. It's going to take kind of a clever game master, maybe I would say, I don't want to say lenient, a creative game master, to turn some of these failures into opportunities for storytelling, as opposed to, well, you just didn't do it. Sorry. Another thing to point out, the kids will not die. This game is not designed for the player characters to die. Can they get hurt? Sure. Can bad things happen to them? Sure. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on how you necessarily want to be able to, how you want to present the game. Do you want to present the game more like Stranger Things, which, yes, I know, Barb did die in Stranger Things. Oh, Barb, we barely knew you. But for the most part, you're watching Stranger Things. You know the main characters are not going to take a dirt nap in it. Flipping back real quick. Just talking about the skills. There are not a ton of different skills in the game. As I mentioned, this is not the sort of system for the min-maxers out there by any stretch. So the adventure is considered the mystery. So now we start moving into stuff which is mainly for the game master. So talking about, okay, so when you're creating an adventure, creating the mystery, okay, so what's behind the mystery? What is it that the players are going to discover? Another point to the game that there's a real push to include is don't create such a fantastical world, fantastical setting, that the everyday things in life aren't important. So, like when the characters are kind of trying to flesh out when the players, I should say, are trying to flesh out their characters, they should have problems. They should have to deal with bullies at school. Maybe have parents who don't pay attention to them, or trouble with a teacher, or something along those lines that kind of grounds them in the real world. So we have introducing the kids, introducing the mystery, solving the mystery. We get some flow charts here, which I thought this was kind of cool. So we got, we get these little flow charts here. Oh, clue 1, 2, 3, showdown. How does these break down? Talking about typical showdowns. So you got challenge, setting the mood, NPCs, items. There isn't some huge bestiary or anything like that with the game as well. Talking about bigger campaigns, bigger mysteries. Then we get some examples of the different robots, different ships. Yes, dinosaurs. You like dinosaurs? One thing I appreciate too with Tales from the Loop is it gives you an opportunity to open up a whole lot of different stuff. I mean, are they working on time travel? Is that what that mysterious company is doing? Maybe they're working on time travel. Maybe they're working on super weapons. Maybe they're trying to clone people. You don't know. That opens up all this different stuff that you can jump into. So, kind of talking about the landscape of the mystery. Kind of giving you some different examples here. There is an example adventure right here, The 4 Seasons of Mad Science. I'm going to kind of flip through this pretty quickly because I don't want to kind of give away a lot. So there are 4 parts to it, and kind of cool because what it basically does, it's the title's 4 seasons, so each of these mysteries that are part of the campaign take place in a different season of the year. Yep, see, give it away, there's dinosaurs in it. I thought the adventure was pretty cool. I like the adventure. And it was funny, I. Wagner, when I was first doing the kind of deep dive into this, I was like, oh, I. Wagner. It's like, obviously, no, it's I. Wagner. Duh. Dummy Jeff. Look at everything through, like, American glasses, right? So you get a really in-depth adventure in the game, which the reality is takes up almost the entire book. It really does. Then we've got the Kickstarter backers. Got the character sheet here, and the character sheet is simply 1 page. So this is nothing that's going to overwhelm anybody. It's not like some other games where you have to have like 4 pages. Oh, and you're a Magic user? Okay, throw in that 5th page as well. Everything right here on 1 page. And the funny thing is, a great amount of space is devoted on your character sheet towards relationships that you have, be it with the other player characters or with NPCs. I like that. I like the aspect that there's a real focus on the storytelling aspect of the game. So 192 pages, as I mentioned. So I guess I'll switch cameras. So what do I really like about Tales from the Loop? And I don't have any dislikes, but there are a few things that I do want to point out as far as who this system's going to be for. So I love the artwork. I think the artwork is phenomenal, and I can see why the artwork inspired a role-playing game around it, because a lot of the artwork shows something which would be rather mundane and then throws in some sort of fantastical science fiction aspect to it where you're like, whoa, wow, that's really striking. I like the fact that Tales from the Loop does not force you into doing a specific thing. The loop could be anything. The loop, as I mentioned, the loop could be working on cloning people. They could be working on time travel. You can introduce a kind of like the Men in Black kind of aspect, the government forces, the mysterious government agencies. I dig that. You can make it more a horror game. You can make it more of just a completely wild sci-fi game. As I mentioned, you can even make it sort of like, the Goonies, right? It's a bunch of younger kids, various different ages, going on an adventure, solving a mystery. That's something I really, really appreciate. I like the fact that it's rules light, and there's a reason behind that, because the game is not designed to be something that you're going to play year-long campaigns, and I'm talking real time, not game time, which me having been around since original Dungeons and Dragons came out, I grew up with my gang and ran campaigns that ran for years. My Call of Cthulhu campaign that I ran for Elliot Miller and Ed Ruprecht and Paul Miller, and we had a few people pop in and out over the years, that really did run about 5 years of gaming on at least a weekly basis. That's really not the case anymore. People don't really have the opportunity. I mean, some do, but most people don't have that opportunity to be able to get together every single week. That's what's throwing a wrench into my actual plans to run a campaign with my nephew Cameron and some of his friends, because it's impossible for us to even schedule something once a week that everybody's going to be able to get together with. So one of the aspects I actually like about Tales from the Loop is that it is designed where you could conceivably sit down, play through a mystery in a single setting. Now, I haven't cracked open Our Friends the Machines and Other Mysteries. It's mysteries or Tales? I think it's Mysteries. I haven't cracked that open to read that yet. And I believe it's just standalone adventures. But Tales from the Loop very easily allows you to sit down if you've got a good amount of time. I'm not talking 2 hours. I don't know anybody who really sits down and role plays for a couple of hours. But if you've got like 4 to 6 hours, you can play through an entire mystery. You can use Tales from the Loop as a nice one-shot, as a nice change of pace from maybe your standard fantasy game or science fiction game or grim dark sci-fi or fantasy game. It makes for a nice breather, something a bit different. You can conceivably put together shorter campaigns as well, where maybe the campaign takes place over 5 or 6 gaming sessions. I do like that aspect of the game, as opposed to, well, you're going to be playing forever and ever and ever, which, I mean, I like doing that too. Don't get me wrong. I get attached to my characters and things like that. So really dig that. Really dig the ability to pick it up and play right away. It's not going to take a ton of time to explain the rules mechanics to the other gamers or anything like that. Probably 20 minutes, you're done. Character creation, super fast. Now, you don't necessarily have to take an archetype, but the reality is, if you think about, kids or yourself as a teenager, you probably easily fit into one of these archetypes. So I dig that. Something that some players out there, some gamers out there may not like is the fact that there isn't a lot of info built into the core book as far as if you want to run a big, long campaign. Really doesn't cover that. Like I said, there's no big bestiary. There's no big list of different equipment and all these other things. Some people might not like that fact, and I understand that. Now, one aspect of Tales from the Loop that probably appeals to me but may not appeal to other gamers out there is because I am of the age that I was 13 years old in 1981. I was a freshman in 1981, so I don't necessarily have to see the list of different things which were the top movies. I don't have to see what the top videos are. I grew up in a time where, yes, we didn't have cell phones. We couldn't send texts. If you were out and you were hanging out with your friends and you needed to call home to tell them, hey, I'm running late, or is it okay to stay over at somebody's house? You either had to be at somebody's house or go find yourself a payphone. And if that payphone wasn't working, you had to go trek out and find another payphone. I come from an age where we really, when we were, out hanging around or playing games and things like that, you had to use imagination because the computer games we had were fairly, they were cool, but compare them to the games these days, it's like, wow, night and day. It's like, like Stone Age Man and the 25th century, if you compare the two together. But I grew up in that time. I grew up in a time where it was like, wow, I got the friend who's got cable TV, and everybody would go gather around to watch MTV and watch videos. Or if we didn't, then it was Friday night and we sat around, waiting for Friday night videos to come on so we could catch the newest videos, all that kind of stuff. I really dig that, and I love the fact that I can draw from my own experience to really create a setting that will grab hold of people because I have experience living during that time. That may turn out to be a bit of a drawback for some players if they want to set Tales from the Loop in the 1980s, especially younger gamers or somebody who's new to the hobby, who maybe they're 20 years old. They don't have that same sort of background to pull off of, to draw from. That being said, there's no law that says you have to put Tales from the Loop set in the 1980s. Set it in whatever era you know about. I think it'd be pretty cool just to have Tales from the Loop during, Y2K. Wow. The big, lead up to Y2K. I think that would be an interesting setting. Of course, you have to come up with your own items and things like that. But I do think that depending on your experience with the 1980s may have something to do with how much you like Tales from the Loop. To wrap up, basically, love the artwork, dig the setting. I think the setting's very cool. I think the adventure, which I kind of flipped through pretty quickly because I don't want to spoil it. I think the adventure was fun. I like the fact that you can kind of create your own sort of loop, however you want to do it. If you want to make it like, Super 8, you can. You want to make it like the Goonies, you can. You want to make it like Stranger Things, you can. Obviously, this game was in development before Stranger Things popped up. So it's not simply just kind of a rip-off of that, because we are seeing a lot of systems out there now that are kind of piggybacking on the whole ET-ish 80s, the Stranger Things 80s kind of genre. So, and I said, really the only, and it's not a negative, it's just kind of a drawback, is that it's not really built for long ongoing campaigns. It's more for one-shots or short campaigns. And people who want a crunchier system probably going to be disappointed with the simple roll a 6 for a success. Don't roll a 6, you don't get a success. So, but and I also really dig the fact that the game is really, really focused on a cooperative story creation process. That doesn't mean that a GM can't put together an adventure and railroad a little bit. I'm not saying that, but I really like how there's aspects to the system that really ask the players to contribute into the game experience and not leave all the heavy lifting to the game master. So all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Tales from the Loop a very, very solid 9.3. It is that good. It's not perfect. I think there could have been a little more to the book as far as like equipment and things like that to kind of help out the game master. But it's not major. It's nothing major. So I give it a very, very solid 9.3. And once again, it is available in hardcover. Oh, the other reason why I ding it a little bit is for a 192-page core book, I think it's a little pricey. A little bit. It's available in hardcover for $46.99, and the PDF is available from DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I would have liked to have seen the core book maybe just under $40, maybe like $39.99, and maybe the PDF at like $19.99. Once again, not a huge thing. Just think it's a little pricier than it should be. Okay, so there you have it. So I wanted to point out on tomorrow's show, I am going to review Robotech Force of Arms from Solar Flare Games. Robotech will be going away soon, gang. So you're going to want to score, if you're a big fan of Robotech, you're going to want to score the Robotech stuff that's coming out. If it's good, I should point out. Don't just pick it up because it says Robotech. Well, you can, because I think it's 2019. that the license is going to expire and there won't really be Robotech anymore. So anyway, I'll talk about that a little bit on tomorrow's show when I do the review of Robotech Force of Arms. On Monday's show, now the box is huge. Thankfully, it's not as heavy as Thunderstone Quest is. But on Monday's show, I am going to open up and take a look at the bigger, geekier box of Smash Up from Alderac Entertainment Group. And this includes plenty of space for you to put all of your expansions for Smash Up, and it also includes some new factions. So we're going to take a look at those factions. So that will be on Monday's show. See how big this box is? I'm going to have to hold this right here as I pick up the other one, kind of switch places with it. Then on Tuesday, I think, I'm not positive, because I haven't gotten it to the game table enough, really. Hoping to do so over the weekend. But I'm going to try to get in a review of Most Wanted from North Star Games, which is a Gen Con release. I believe they're going to have copies of Most Wanted at Gen Con. So I'm going to try my best to get a review for that on next Tuesday's show. Then Wednesday on next week, I'll be tackling Gen Con. I'll be at Gen Con, so there will not be any episodes of The Daily Dope. If for some reason I can't get a review of Most Wanted, what I might do on Tuesday is talk about, say, like 5 role-playing games that are coming out at Gen Con that have really sparked my interest or that should be of interest to gamers out there. So we'll find out. We'll see what happens. Anyway, all right, so that is it for today's show. When you're not watching The Daily Dope or checking out other videos from the Gaming Gang, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Well, by now you know the drill. Get your geek on at the Gaming Gang. Oh, wow. It was good to get back, get another show. It'd been a while. So, just back in the saddle, huh? Anyway, I will be back tomorrow, as I mentioned, with my review of Robotech Force of Arms. So, until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.